Hi girls, Miss Gaska here. Today we're going to go over English 1 Semester 2, Week 2, Activity 1.17, Evaluating Claims and Reasoning. Our learning targets for this activity include identify counterclaims and refutations in an argument, analyze conclusions to an argument, and describe counterclaims and refutations in writing. To preview, in this activity, you will read 2 editorials and analyze the elements of an argument, including the central claims, counterclaims, and supporting evidence. So let's take a look at the setting a purpose for reading section. So these are the things that you need to do when you're reading in order to properly annotate the text. So first of all, we need to draw a star next to elements of an argument. So I'm going to say, instead of drawing a star, we're just going to use an asterisk. So let me grab my typewriter tool and click next to that, and then I'm going to do Shift 8 on my keyboard to do the asterisk. That's fine. Highlight the different types of evidence. So facts, personal experience, illustrative, personal testimony, and hypothetical case used in each editorial. Then circle unknown words and phrases. Try to determine the meanings of the words by using context clues, word parts, or a dictionary. So I'm going to demonstrate how to do those things using the first few paragraphs, and then it's up to you to do the remainder and then meet me down in the question section so that we can work on the questions. So this text is called Why College Isn't and Shouldn't Have to Be for Everyone by Robert Reich, writing for the Huffington Post. I know a high school senior who's so worried about whether she'll be accepted at the college of her choice, she can't sleep. The parent of another senior tells me he stands at the mailbox for an hour every day, waiting for a hoped-for acceptance letter to arrive. Parents are also uptight. I've heard of some who have stopped socializing with other parents of children competing for admission to the same university. Competition for places top brand colleges is absurdly intense. So let's go back and look at what we're supposed to be looking for. We're looking for elements of an argument, we're looking for types of evidence, and we're looking for unknown words and phrases. So I'm going to come down, and here he says, I know a high school senior who's so worried. So they're giving a personal anecdote here. So I'm going to highlight that. Oh, whoops, hold on. And this is also here, she can't sleep. It's supposed to make us feel bad for this senior. So that's an appeal to our pathos. I'm just going to jot that down. So I'm also going to put a star here because using pathos is an element of an argument. It's a rhetorical device. Then the parent of another senior tells me, so this is another personal anecdote, that he stands at the mailbox for an hour. So here, I don't know what you're supposed to feel about this teenager except that he's acting absurd. And then parents are also uptight. So he's saying like another group is also experiencing this. I think he's trying to add validity to his argument by using another supporting group. And I think that's an example of ethos to get us to trust him. And then I've heard of some who've stopped socializing with other parents. I don't know if that's supposed to make you feel anything. That's up to you. So as you go through, continue to annotate the text. And then when you meet me at the bottom for the questions, we will go over them. But first, we have a competing article. We're going to do the same exact thing. Using those setting a purpose for reading standards, we're going to mark this text as well. I'm only going to read the first paragraph with you, and then we're going to go to those questions. So this paragraph, or this article, is called, Actually, College is Very Much Worth It. Lately, it's become fashionable, especially among the highly credentialed, to question whether it's really worth it to go to college. A recent report from the Harvard Graduate School of Education proposed de-emphasizing college as the primary goal of our education system in favor of multiple pathways for students. Earlier this month, New York Magazine devoted almost 4,000 words to profiling venture capitalists and college graduates James Altucher and Peter Thiel in their efforts to convince Americans that they'd be better off skipping college. Thiel is even creating a $100,000 fellowship for young people who agree to delay going to college in favor of an internship. So I'm going to pause and annotate this text. So you may not be familiar with the word credentialed, so I'm going to go ahead and circle that. And then I'm also, emphasizing, so I'm sure you know what de-emphasizing means. You may not know what venture capitalists are, but it's over here on the side. And then you may not know what a fellowship is, but I'm going to circle that for you. So now I'm going to highlight things that I think are elements of the argument. So he's kind of starting off by saying his opposite opinions point of view. So he's stating the opposing side's point of view. He's stating what they're doing to propose their point of view. And he's also showing what else is being done here, is that they're offering money to postpone college to people who want to do an internship instead. So here he's introducing the opposing side's points. And he's also using this number here to kind of surprise you, to show you how some people believe so much that college might not be worth it. So as you continue reading this, look out for those different types of things that you're meant to annotate, and by the time you get to the end of it, you should have every paragraph annotated to some extent, same as the previous article. So then when you get down to the questions, it starts off with, what is the claim of this argument? And it's referring to the one that says why college isn't and shouldn't have to be for everyone. You can kind of get that claim from just looking at the title, to be honest with you. So what's the claim of this argument? And then how does that writer set up the claim? So you're going to figure out what that claim is, and then you're going to go in and figure out what are the different things this author is doing, what are the things that they're putting in place in order to show the claim and set that claim up in the first place. For number 2, it says, where does the writer bring up the counterclaim and how does he develop it? By where, they're talking about what paragraph. So you're looking for the paragraph where they bring up the counterclaim, and then you're giving information about the details the author uses to develop the counterclaim. Then for number 3, it says, what is the connotation of the word absurdity as used in paragraph 15? Why did the author choose that word? So you're going to go back to paragraph 15 and look at the word absurdity in order to determine what the connotation is. Do they mean it in a positive way, a negative way, a neutral way? And then why did the author choose that word? What is the purpose of using a word with that kind of connotation? And then these questions are about the other article. Actually, college is very much worth it. For number 4, key ideas and details, it says the writer of this opinion piece begins by laying out the arguments against his central claim. How does this affect the appeal of his argument? So how does him setting up his counterclaim, the argument against him, affect the rest of the argument from your perspective as a reader? So how does it affect the appeal of your argument, or of his argument? So number 5 is, how does the author's use of the word bursting in paragraph 4 contribute to his argument? So you're going to want to go to paragraph 4 and find that word bursting. 6 is, what evidence does the writer present to support his opinion that a college education is a good idea? So you're going to find evidence that they're using to prove that college education is a good idea. And there should be plenty of that in that paper. For number 7, it wants you to compare the claims made by each of these authors and then evaluate the reasons and evidence used by each author. Decide what's relevant and convincing. And then for each text, write the claim and its supporting evidence in the chart. So, first of all, we have why college isn't and shouldn't have to be for everyone, and then we have actually, college is very much worth it. So in this one, you would write the claim about what the author was trying to prove by writing that article. Here you'd write the claim for what the author was trying to prove about the second article. Here you would list some of the pieces of evidence. I would suggest going with 2 or 3 different pieces of evidence for each of them. And then you're going to also state the counterclaims that they introduce in their arguments and evidence they gave for the counterclaims, okay? And then that's all you have to do for that chart. Come down to number 8 and says, what elements, if any, do you think are missing from either of these pieces? Explain. So basically you're going to try to look for what parts of an argument do you think are not there, and then explain what you think. Number 9 says, why do you think Andrew J. Rotherham disclosed at the end of his article that he is a member of an educational group? How does this disclosure affect your perception of his argument? So, why do you think he said that at the end of his article is the first part of that question. The second part of that question is, how does this disclosure, so how does him saying that he's part of an educational group, how does that affect the way you see his argument? Conclusion or call to action. An argument contains a conclusion that often restates the primary claim and tries to convince the reader to take an action. So you're looking for the call to action in each of these pieces. Okay? So what is the call of action in each of these pieces? And then for check your understanding, I want you to state which writer you thought presented the more convincing argument, and then cite evidence to support your conclusion and explain why you thought their argument was more convincing, meaning like you thought it was more persuasive. So now it says, go back to the speech in activity 1.15 again and reread it in light of what you have learned about counterclaims and refutations and conclusions or call to action. Then revise your explanation of how Obama builds his argument to be an analysis of how Obama most effectively builds his argument. Consider all aspects of constructing an effective argument and decide which aspects Obama uses most effectively. Wow, they said effectively a lot in this paragraph here. So it says to revise your thesis to address the most effective aspects of building an argument used by Obama and why they are effective. Your analysis should focus on the most relevant features of Obama's speech. Include direct quotations from the text to support each specific claim you make and introduce and punctuate all quotations correctly. And be consistent with choices for voice, verb tense, and pronouns, number and person, especially as you shift from verb to verb or pronoun to pronoun within a sentence and among related sentences. So something I want to point out here is that you don't have to write a whole new piece. You're editing the previous thing that you wrote in order to include these new things that you're supposed to include. So I'm going to cross this one out because this isn't something that we're going to go over. And then here we have the last piece of this week, writing an argumentative essay, embedded assessment 2. So when I meet you in the next video, this is what we're going to go over. So please be prepared for that. And I will see you then. Thanks for watching. And if you have any questions, as always, feel free to reach out. Take care.